Today's video is a build guide for Shorekeeper. A little bit behind everyone else making this. I saw Saint Tontas had made literally 2 of these in 2 days. So I'm a little behind everyone else, but here we go. So Shorekeeper's gameplay loop is pretty simple. Basic attack 4 times, which will fill her forte bar. Cast a heavy attack, which will consume her forte bar. You may need to repeat this once or twice. Then you want to cast her resonance skill, her echo skill, and her resonance liberation before outroing to the next character on your team. Once that character outros to your DPS, you should have fully upgraded her resonance liberation stellar realm to its maximum potential, giving all of the buffs you need for your team. Once you've completed that rotation, cast Shorekeeper's intro skill, which will be replaced with her enhanced intro skill if her stellar realm is gold and hasn't run out of time. And then you will be back on Shorekeeper to start again. So that's a brief summary of how to play her, which I call her gameplay loop. Obviously, perfect rotations for different teams are going to change slightly, but that's the general idea of how to play her. Moving on to building her. Now, I could start with her weapon, but I'm actually going to start with her echoes because there's 2 ways to build her echoes, and that plays into everything else. So that's where I'm going to start. There are 2 main ways to build Shorekeeper's echoes: healing and damage. To sum it up quickly, both sets are going to be on Rejuvenating Glow 4-3-3-1-1. The healing set is going to have healing bonus for the 4 cost, energy regen for both 3 costs, and HP for both 1 costs. The damage set is going to have crit damage for the 4 costs, energy regen for the 3 costs, and HP for the 1 costs. In terms of substats, this applies to both sets. If I was to put them in order, I would say energy regen, HP percent, crit damage, resonance liberation damage bonus, and then flat HP as the most important. Now, it's worth mentioning, both sets can take advantage of this, healing or damage. And that is, if you have enough energy regen on these substats here, like I do, you can actually forego the second energy regen 3 cost and replace it with Spectro damage bonus. Now, I've done this because I've built the damage type as well, so that was what I was going for from the beginning. But I would say this is going to be a lot more difficult to build because you can't rely on the bare minimum energy regen stats. You really need to be getting 9% at least on all of these to be able to get this. So, in terms of her weapon, obviously, her best in slot is Stellar Symphony. It was literally made for her, and that needs basically no explanation. It has more attack, more energy regen than the next best in slot, which is this variation, but with 77% on her Stellar Symphony and more attack, that's just going to be amazing for either. So the thing is though, variation is pretty easy to get. It's on the standard banner. It can be got on the standard banner, and it is pretty regularly on limited banners. And it's so good, it's one of the few weapons that I would actually recommend ranking up multiple of them to 90 before you consider syntonizing them to raise the rank. This is going to generally be the best in slot after Stellar Symphony because it speeds up your rotation with Concerto Energy. Obviously, this is usually 8 Concerto Energy, but I've ranked this one up. And this also is on par with one of the features of Stellar Symphony, which is when you cast a Resonance Liberation, you get 8 Concerto Energy, or up to 16 if you R5 it, but no one's going to do that. So I will give an honourable mention to what I personally consider the only other weapon that is usable on Shorekeeper, and that is Call of the Abyss. So this has the same energy regen and attack stats as variation, and it has a Resonance Liberation increases healing bonus effect, and that's great because this weapon is free to play. You get it from that tower quest, the 3 towers in Rinascita, and once you've got it, you can just craft it, so it's a really good weapon. So this would be what I would consider the free-to-play option, even though technically variation is an option for free-to-play players. This is the first real true one. You don't need to pull at all to get this weapon, and because her Resonance Liberation does healing over time to people within it, this is a fantastic ability. Obviously 15 seconds isn't going to cover the whole thing, but that's kind of what you want. Now, I'm going to talk about a skill priority. So we've done the echoes and the weapon. So now it's time to talk about the priority of her skills. So if you're doing the healing build, really these are the only ones that are going to matter. But the thing is, you don't really need anything. She is such a minimal investment character once you've got her. So you can see I haven't upgraded this at all. I just did all of this because I wanted to maximize her healing and also the damage she does, which I will explain in a moment. But really all you need to level up, I would just say level them up to level 6 because you're not using any weekly boss mats. You can skip all of these and just go for her inherent skills. If you want to be as minimal as possible about investment, you can be. So prioritizing for damage, personally, these are also not necessary, but if you get the HP percent ones, you're going to increase her damage. So for the priority for the damage type, I would say intro skill is most important because this is where the majority of her damage comes from. So Shorekeeper's kit revolves around her Resonance Liberation, which is 30 seconds long and has 3 stages. First stage, once it's been cast, a big area, the Stellar Realm itself, will appear and you'll get healed every 3 seconds while standing within it. Now it's important to note this is going to be a large area and it's going to be blue in colour. This is stage 1, the Outer Stellar Realm. Once you intro skill within the Stellar Realm, it will upgrade to the second, which is the Inner Stellar Realm, as you can see. The Inner Stellar Realm is purple, and anyone within the Inner Stellar Realm will get a crit rate buff based on Shorekeeper's energy regen. If you get it to 250% total, that's going to be maxed out at 12.5% crit rate. Once you intro into another character on your team within the realm, it will upgrade once again to the Supernal Stellar Realm, which is gold, the final stage, and on top of the crit rate buff, you're now going to get a crit damage buff, which can reach 25% based on how close you are to 250% energy regen. So assuming you've got 250% energy regen, you're going to have 12.5% crit rate and 25% crit damage at this point. Once you finish the rotation of your DPS, if the Supernal Stellar Realm is still active, you will have the ability to intro skill back to Shorekeeper. Regular base level is going to end the Stellar Realm once you cast that intro skill, because it's now an enhanced intro skill, which is going to critical hit, guaranteed, and deal Resonance Liberation damage. And that's the scaling. So that's why I have this up to level 10 here. So basically her kit is about buffing your team, having them cast intro skills to increase the buffs until the max, and then casting Shorekeeper's enhanced intro skill to close the loop. So now you'll see why I bothered to invest in all of these things, fully upgrading the intro skill, and also why I went with crit damage, energy regen on every substat, and even Spectre damage bonus, because all of these things are going to increase the damage she deals, and it doesn't really seem to have a massive effect on her healing overall. So I'll take a brief moment to talk about her resonance chain. None of these are needed. She's amazing as she is with very little investment. But this first one is incredible because what it does is it increases the size of her Stellar Realm, which is amazing for a lot of bosses. Thinking the ones that move around loads like Tempest Mephis, Hecate, things like that. It can be really annoying in those arenas if you're coming out of the Stellar Realm, because it does mean you're not getting the buffs. It also gives you a 10-second buff, so that's 40 seconds now. That's just very useful because if you get knocked down one time in the rotation, that can completely knock you out of the ability to use her enhanced intro. So the thing that I find most useful in this, apart from the range extension, which is her enhanced intro skill, doesn't immediately end the Stellar Realm. So that's just a nice little feature there. I do wonder, because the way her thing works, I wonder if she gets her own buff either way. It might be worth testing, but you can definitely say for sure she will have her own buff if the Stellar Realm doesn't cancel immediately that she uses it. So anyway, number 2 is one of the best attack buffs in the game. So if you've got number 1 and you've got the Asteroids, I'd recommend this. It's literally insane. And the rest of them, to be honest, aren't great. This is 20 Concerto energy. That's great, but you already have to have Resonance Liberation to do that. So I don't really think that's super great. You already get Concerto energy from her signature or variation if you're using those. So not at the top of my list. This is just nice. but it's only when casting that. So it doesn't have any timer or anything, so you can assume that it's just applying to the resonance skill. Not that great, but it is a big bump to her ability. This is just cool because her basic attack cycle does a traction effect. That's kind of good, but not really necessary. However, this one is crazy OP, really good, absolutely amazing. Basically turns Shorekeeper into a DPS, and that is this. 500% increase to crit damage on her enhanced intro skill, and a 42% damage multiplier. So, absolutely crazy. This is a guaranteed crit, as you remember, so absolutely crazy. But if you can spare it, I would say getting this first one is a really good use of Astrites. Watch me say that at this rerun, and then they bring out another healer in 2 days. That'd be funny. Right, in terms of team synergy, you can literally pair with any 2 characters, and literally any. That's basically all you need to say about her teams. I will say there are some teams that are going to be better than others. People whose kit leans into the crit damage more than the crit rate. Carlotta here, she has crit rate. This guy, he has crit damage here, and I'm pretty sure his signature weapon has crit damage on it as well. So Camellia is a great example of someone who fits this description. Gian also has a big crit damage buff on his signature, meaning these people can be a little lacking in the crit rate department. And so there's obviously going to be a better reason to use Shorekeeper with them. But anyway, that's how you build Shorekeeper, and a bit about how to play her. Peace.